Hey everybody, this is Knox from AvantAlpine.com here with another episode of the Avant Alpine Tech Table. And today we're hanging out at the Ski and Boot Lab in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. This is definitely our favorite dedicated tune and boot fitting shop in the Denver area. So please, if you're in Central Colorado at all this season and you need a good-to-go tune to go out on the hill with, come check out Casey's shop here and get him to set you up. It is appropriate that we are hanging out at a tune shop today because we are talking about consumer tune kits. And what I've got in my hands right now is a Dakine Super Tune. And we get asked all the time, is it worth investing the money in a home, like consumer level tune kit? What can you actually get done with this? Is it better than taking it to a shop? Yada, yada, yada. And the answer is absolutely. If you do a lot of skiing and you pride yourself on maybe learning how to do some of your own technical work and some of your own repairs and waxing, etc., it is absolutely worth it to get a tune kit of some kind. You'll be able to do some low-level minor edge work with something like this, some minor bass repair, as well as you can do a pretty professional level wax job with a kit like this if you practice over time. We're going to look at a Super Tune today. This is a Dakine kit. We don't sell Dakine products. This isn't a review or a sales pitch of any kind. This is just a kit that I've had in my system for the last 2 or 3 years, and we've been improving upon it. So it's what I feel comfortable talking about. There is a company out there called Demon that's throwing together some really cool kits. If you want to go check them out, they have probably a wider range and selection than Dakine has in terms of different kits that might meet your needs better than this one. And then racewax.com, who again we're not affiliated with in any way. They are a great site that I believe allows you to part together a kit from individual components that you want. But we're talking about a Dakine Super Tune, and I'm going to open this thing up. This is my kit that kind of lives in my truck throughout the season as we bounce around between states and whatnot. This is what I use if I need a quick wax job or a little bit of edge work on the road, if we're out in a hotel or we're at a buddy's house up in Wyoming or something. This thing, I work with it in the shed at my house a decent bit, but for the most part it lives in my car and we use it for kind of tunes on the go. I'm going to open it up real quick and talk about what's in the kit when you purchase it, as well as some of the things that I've added over the last couple of years to improve it for my use. So without further ado, let's open it up and see what we've got. I'm going to take out the things that I've added. So all this wax here, these random tools, rubber bands, blah, blah, blah. We'll talk about this in a second. And just get it down to what you start with. Okay, so first and foremost, you've got your waxing iron. This is the principal piece of the kit. This is where most of your money is going to go when you buy one of these things. I believe this kit retails for about $125, and this waxing iron is $50 to $75 on its own. This is actually a relatively respectable waxing iron. Is it the best one on the market? No. I think Swix probably makes a better one. Toco, I'm sure, makes a better one. The principal beef that I've got with this iron, and that a lot of people have also mentioned with it, is it's kind of bad at regulating consistent temperature. It has a click on and off cycle that is a little bit inconsistent compared to some of the pricier waxing irons out there. However, that being said, we've used this iron in professional shops before, and it's more than up to that task, and I really don't have enough of an issue with it to replace it until it just completely breaks. So it's perfectly good. It's better than going out to the shop and using a clothing iron for this. I waxed with a clothing iron a couple times, and the main issue with that is, once again, temperature control is a problem, and then you end up with, it's got a much sharper edge on it. This is a softer edge, so it doesn't push wax around quite as badly as a clothing iron would. A clothing iron's really going to push wax all over the place, and you're going to have to get really good at working with it in order to make it work for you. So it's got a softer edge on it to keep that from happening, and also it doesn't have perforations for like steam holes, right, for steaming clothing. Also, a conversation you don't want to have with your roommates is why your buddy goes and tries to iron his work shirt and then gets wax all over it because there's a bunch of wax built up inside the steam holes of the iron you guys all share. So get yourself a proper waxing iron and you won't have any issues. And it's just way, way more consistent. Even one like this that has some temperature control issues that we've kind of experienced in the past and that people have mentioned online, even something like this is a lot better than anything you're going to find at the store in terms of a clothing iron. All right, so moving right along. They package it with kind of a weenie piece of wax. I've had this kit for about 3 years now. This is the original piece of wax that came in the kit. I haven't even touched it. I kind of keep it around for emergencies. I'm sure it's fine wax. There's just not much of it. Basically any format wax you buy, unless you're buying very specific temperature wax, you're going to get more than this little thing has to offer. This is maybe 2 or 3 wax jobs worth of wax right here. So this is just to get you started and get you going. Not the end of the world that there's not much of it, because you're going to be replacing wax more than anything else in this kit. So a little piece of wax, that's what you get there. Couple pieces of P-Tex. These are P-Tex candles. P-Tex candles, basically you light this with a lighter and it'll drip molten base material into small gouges along the base of your ski. So these are fine and everything. I wouldn't use these to repair a full core shot. If you've got a really big hole in your base, I would bring it to a shop like this and have them fix it. But for minor stuff, these are absolutely fine. And this is one of those things that you can play with and you're not going to ruin your ski. So by all means, if you've got a handful of scratches in your ski that you want to see gone, yeah, these are the 2 P-Tex candles that came with this kit, and I haven't finished them yet. I've added a few, but yeah, you get a lot of use out of these for minor fixes. Moving on, we've got this is a gummy stone, and this is the one that they ship with the kit. And a gummy stone traditionally isn't actually a stone. It's like a very dense sponge. And I've got another one over here right now that we actually use. I don't like the one that they shipped with the Dakine one because it's a little bit more stone-y or stone-like for me. By which I mean I'm not super confident that it won't jack your edges up a little bit. A gummy stone is one of the most useful things that you're going to have in your ski tuning arsenal. And let me kind of show you what I mean real quick. This thing, because it's softer than your stainless steel edges, is incredible for removing surface rust. So you can absolutely go crazy with this thing up and down your edges, not damage them, not dull them, but you can take down a ton of those like really minor burrs and knock out all that surface rust that's really annoying and gross looking, and that will eventually over time eat into your steel bases or your steel edges and cause actual problems. So this is the gummy stone that comes with the Dakine kit. This is another one that my buddy John might have inadvertently donated to my kit. But you just want one of these like softer stones. I've got another one over here we can show you in a second. One of these softer stones for cleaning up nasty looking edges. So that said, moving on, we've got, let's talk about the bastard file. The bastard file is a trap. The bastard file is something that comes in most larger, really most tuning kits, honestly. I'm thinking about it right now, and they come in almost all of them. This thing, you're going to look at it and you're going to, oh, this is a good thing to use to play with your edges and work on your edges. Absolutely not. I mean, in order to do proper edge work, you need to keep a consistent angle at all times when you're going up and down that edge. And if you're just freehanding this thing, it's going to be a total mess for you. When you can use this is if you've got some sort of edge holder, or some sort of file guide. And Casey at Ski and Boot Lab kind of donated this one for the video. This is one that you would use for base bevel, like keeping your edges nice and level with your base. But as you can see, the file goes into this guide and is kept completely straight at all times and flat with the edge of your ski. So if you don't have something like this, don't go using one of these files on your edges. Really, you're probably better off just tossing this thing. You're probably better off just tossing this thing and saving weight. And kind of to that same end, we've got a little brush in here. And this little brush that Dakine ships is too small to use for any sort of base prep or anything like that. This brush is specifically for cleaning out your bastard file. like little shavings and stuff that get into the file teeth. So basically, I would recommend not using this for anything. The best use that we've found for it is maybe for knocking down PTEX when you do some sort of base repair, but that's really what the metal scraper is for. So honestly, I don't use this for anything almost ever, and you can, in my opinion, you can just toss it straight away. So I'm going to put it over here, and we're not going to talk about it again. Moving ahead to scrapers. The Dakine kit comes with two different scrapers, a metal one and a plastic one. Your first impulse, and this was something that I did early on when I was teaching myself how to tune, essentially. You're going to want to use this metal scraper initially for taking wax off, but it's not a good idea. You can very easily, I mean, it takes wax off like a dream. It's so easy, and we haven't scraped this ski today, so it's still got plenty of excess wax on it. This thing yanks wax off skis, and it's really great. But as you get more enthusiastic and start putting more and more pressure on your wax removal strokes, and you get your angle wrong, or you push too hard, you're running the risk of taking a big gouge out of your ski. So for that reason, they ship a plastic scraper that you should always use for removing wax from your ski. The plastic scraper is not going to damage your bases. In fact, the plastic scraper is going to get damaged by your edges and bases, and it's going to eventually start getting grooves and stuff in it, so it's nice to have a grinder or some sort of file that you can use at home to keep this thing nice and flat. But just in general, always use this for wax, and always use this for, oh, and I should also say that they ship it with a nice wide scraper, nice wide plastic scraper, and this is great for using on fat skis and also for snowboards. Some of the smaller scrapers out there, you got to make a zillion passes on wider surfaces like snowboards, but this one is nice and big, so if you've got a nice flat base bevel, this thing should take wax off no problem. And actually it's not a very sharp corner on it right now, but this is your waxing scraper, and this scraper is used for knocking down PTEX. So if you've taken your PTEX candle and you've dribbled some PTEX into an imperfection in the ski, you take this and very slowly, with very small motions, kind of knock that PTEX down level with the base of your ski. Never use tons of pressure with this scraper, and never use it on wax with fast pressing motions, because you will, I mean, I learned the hard way back in the day. I took a couple pieces out of my base or something like this, and I stopped doing it, so there you go. Dakine also throws in kind of a wussy edging tool. I don't really recommend that most people do a ton of edge work on their own skis, just because you can screw it up really easily, and especially not with a tool like this, because it's got a file in it that isn't really held in place all that well. I'm pushing it in and out pretty easily. This thing, once it kind of loses that initial friction lock that's keeping it in there, it can be kind of bad about dropping in and out. Also, you've only got two angle options. You've got a 0 degree and a 2 degree. So if your skis are designed to be, or if you prefer to have an edge angle setting other than 0 and 2, this isn't going to work for you. So this is kind of a rinky-dink file system. What I will say is, if you've got some bigger burrs or whatever, it's not the end of the world if you use this to knock them down a little bit. Like as you can see on mine, there's a lot of rust shavings and stuff in there. I've obviously used it a few times to knock down some rust on some skis that have been stored improperly. But just in general, don't do a ton of your own edge work unless you know what you're doing. And if you do know what you're doing, you're probably going to want a different tool than this. And finally, actually not quite finally, we've got the scouring pad that they include here. This scouring pad is used in lieu of a regular brush. So there's a few different brushes that you use in ski tuning. Some brushes are used for pulling old wax and grit and stuff like that out of your base before you do a waxing job, and some brushes are used for polishing at the end of a waxing job. This scouring pad is kind of okay for both. I really don't mind them. I use a scouring pad myself for most of my own kind of DIY waxing, especially quickie jobs, that kind of thing. But if you've got access to proper brushes, which we'll talk about in a second, they are better. And finally, you've got the actual pack case itself. One of the main things I like about this Dakine pack is it's well organized and it's big. So when it comes straight from the factory, there's tons and tons of extra space in it for you to grow the pack with your own tuning capabilities. So you can keep adding tools and adding stuff to this pack because it's so big. There's just a ton of extra space in here when you get it in the mail or when you purchase it at the shop or whatever. So kind of on that same topic, let's talk about a couple of things that I've added to this pack over the years to improve it. First off, got a bunch of different wax. Wax is going to be the first thing you're going to go through when you're doing a lot of tuning. You're going to be replacing wax on a fairly regular basis. If you're doing skis, once or twice a week, maybe more than that. I've got a few different kinds of general wax in here. This is a winter Steiger. I forgot what blue means. I think blue is either cold or all temp. But that was just a block of winter Steiger I had lying around. This pink stuff, I can't even tell who made it, but this is what I would kind of use as like a cleanup wax. So if you haven't waxed a pair of skis in a while and it's a real dry base or whatever, you would do, if you've got enough time and you're not like strapped for time, you do an initial wax job with a very, very cheap wax just to kind of rehydrate the base and then scrape it off and yank a bunch of that old wax and dirt and grit and crap that's down in the pores of your skis. So a nice cheap Play-Doh wax for that. And then I've got a big old block of Pearl. And we are not affiliated with these guys in any way, but I really like Pearl's product in terms of what you get, like bang for your buck wise. This is an organic wax that you don't need to freak out. It's organic, biodegradable. You don't need to freak out about it screwing the environment up when it comes off your ski on the mountain. And you can get a pound of it, I think, for less than $20. So this stuff is absolutely fantastic. Purple is all temp. They make a cold and a warm weather wax. And I've done a couple of wax jobs on it already, and you can kind of see I'm getting into that corner. But this thing, if you're not doing a zillion waxes a week, this thing will last you a season or two. So Pearl Wax, check them out. I think they sell on Amazon, or you can buy it direct as well, I'm sure. Good stuff. I've also got a larger scouring pad that, like I said, I use scouring pads for polishing and whatever. That's great. If you're strapped for space, you don't have enough space left in your kit to carry full brushes for whatever reason, or you're just cheap like I am, scouring pads are cool. I've also got a couple brushes over here that we are lent by Casey here at the Boot Lab. And we've got a polishing brush here, which is just a very fine, stiff, synthetic bristle brush for polishing at the end of a waxing job, really getting that waxing job, or that wax settled and down into the base of the ski and nice and slick. And then here you've got a wire bristle brush with some plastic bristles or some synthetic bristles on the outside for clearing wax away. This is for getting down into the structure of your ski and ripping old dirty wax or old dried up wax out before you start a waxing job. So really those are the only two kinds of brushes you need. Here at the shop, if we're going to do a job for you, we have what's called a roto brush, which is a drill attachment basically. This thing spins super, super quick and just accelerates the polishing process or accelerates the cleaning process at the beginning of a waxing job. I've added another gummy stone, just added a larger gummy stone than the one that came in the kit, or the one that I found over here, this little red one. I like this one because it's got a zillion little grooves in it, so if you've got a bunch of little grooves to choose from, you're always going to get good contact on the edge, and it makes it quicker to find that contact point and remove burrs and rust. Also got a big handful of rubber bands, and these are among the most useful things in the kit, because if you don't have these, you're going to have trouble keeping this brake out of your way. As you can see on the ski in front of me, we've already got the rubber bands down, but if I take them off, you'll understand what I'm talking about, because once the rubber bands are off, you're going to have a lot of trouble getting around that brake area and doing the waxing job you need to do with that brake in the way. So getting the brake out of the way is pretty critical, and the very first thing you do every time you get set up to wax. And finally, I have an improved edging tool. So as I was saying before, I'm not really wild about the edging tool that came with the Dakine kit, this one. So we've got one that has more adjustability in terms of angle. This is an FK SKS multi-tuner, one of the best hand tool tuning companies, or hand tuning tool companies out there. Check them out. We don't sell their stuff either, just really like them. This thing locks your file in place. You can use a lot of different files with it, diamond stones, whatever. You do base edge, side edge, and you can do from 0 to 5 degree file angle in increments of 0.5 degrees. So it goes, 1.5, 1, or I'm sorry, 0.5, 1, 1.5, etc. All the way up. Really high quality edge tool. So once again, don't do your edges, don't do your own edges unless you know what you're doing, or unless you have a cheap pair of skis to practice with. But if you are going to do a lot of your own edge work, get something like this and ditch this tool that comes in the kit. Oh, and very last thing, if you're going to be doing a lot of home ski tuning and ski work, definitely get a work surface that is going to work for you. If you're using just a flat table or some sawhorses, which we've all done in the past, you're going to have the ski moving around in you a lot. Grab the cheapest pair of decent vices you can get off Amazon or whatever. Who makes these? These are Ski Man vices. Basically what a vice system is going to do is you can put this ski upside down on here, and they've got a little rubber tacky surface so that once you put the ski on them, you can go crazy on it, scraping and waxing and whatever, and the ski isn't going to move around on you. It just gives you a much more stable surface to work on. Anybody who's worked on sawhorses or metal vices with a towel laid across them or whatever, you know how tricky it is, and then you're just fighting with your work surface the entire time. So these vices are actually small enough that you can pop them off the table and fit them in your kit if you wanted to take them with you on the road. So yeah, highly suggest grabbing a pair of vices if you are going to be doing a lot of tuning, especially tuning away from home, away from your typical workspace setup. So anyway, that's about all we had to say about the Dakine Super Tune kit and consumer tune kits in general. Hopefully you guys found this helpful and useful in some way, maybe a little bit entertaining. If you end up using any of these tips over the coming season, please let us know about it in the comments. We want to hear if they're working out for you. And if you've got anything you'd like to add to this video, please also let us know in the contents. As always, thanks for watching, and check us out at www.avantalpine.com, and we look forward to putting out even more content like this for you guys in the near future. Thanks a ton.